episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. I want to say thank you for coming back to the channel. Today, as you notice, the video may be in a little bit different quality. Today I'm actually filming in 4K, 24 frames a second. I'm very excited to bring you this new and exciting kind of video quality to my videos here, and I hope you enjoy it too. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about Mindhunter, the new-ish kind of series that has been on Netflix over the past couple weeks. I'm sorry for not putting up a video last week, but I was actually very ill and was not able to record, so I'm doing this in lieu of last week's episode. So Mindhunter is a series that's actually from David Fincher, of all people, and it's a series about the kind of beginnings of the behavioral analysis crew at the FBI, and they are really the ones that are famous for really taking down serial killers. By the time this video is up, the series has probably been on now for a few weeks, but I just finished watching the entire first season, and I really hope there's a second. I would not review this until I've watched the entire season, which is why it took me a little bit to bring this to you guys, but I want to make sure I watch the whole thing and not just watch an episode or two and try to review the series. It's not the way it works, and I'm glad that I'm seeing more and more people actually watch the entire series instead of reviewing, you know, the first 2 episodes and then giving your analysis of the series. It doesn't really work that way. But I will tell you that Mindhunter is a brilliant psychological thriller slash character study show, and it's very dark. I really enjoyed the way that the characters in the show really have real human problems. And it's not something you see a lot on many shows these days. Funny enough, the show Criminal Minds, which is actually, again, not a bad show, but it's a procedural type show, deals with the same kind of FBI group that this show is concerned with. This show is more about the creation of that part of the FBI, but it's really fascinating to see how differently people thought about crime and criminals and psychopaths years ago versus today. It's a very, very different kind of show. I'm glad that the show did not become formulaic at all. It starts and kind of proceeds in a very slow pace, but that pace is very purposeful. And I like the fact that the show does not concern itself with action scenes, and it's not that kind of show. It's a show more about the psychological aspects of criminals and these murderers than of, I would say, like, you know, a show like The Punisher, which is out now, which is a very different kind of show. Even though that show is also about characters, this show is really about what's going on in here. I also think that the show dealt with time periods correctly. The show kind of starts off in like the early 70s and kind of makes its way through that decade up until about, I just want to say probably like the early 80s and like 80, 81 around that time. And it's a really interesting take on, you know, that time period because it doesn't concern itself with every little thing that happened in, you know, the 70s and 80s, but I do like the fact that everything around them is pretty much dead on. The technology is there. Even they show the progression of the tape recorder that they use and how tape recorders went from reel to reel to like cassettes, and I think that's really interesting to watch. And it added more character to the show as a whole. It's very well directed. Obviously, David Fincher, one of the best working directors alive today. You may know him as the director of Fight Club, Seven, Panic Room, Zodiac, which is very much in line with this. I'd say his films Zodiac and Seven are almost like spiritual like continuations of this show. Even though this show is based on reality like Zodiac, Seven is very, very close to this in terms of tone. I think it's absolutely like right on the same level. So if you enjoyed those movies, you're going to love the hell out of Mindhunter because it's a very dark show in that same kind of way. Another thing I want to talk to you about was the fact that the ending of the show, even though I'm not going to spoil it, I'm not even going to go into details about the show because you really should watch it. The ending of the first season is very downbeat, and it's not a satisfying ending. And it shouldn't be, because it looks like this story is going to go on for quite a while now. And I'm glad, because I want to see what happens to the characters that are introduced on the show. But the ending is very downbeat. And it's like that for a reason. When you see it, you'll understand. But again, going back to the psychological aspects, you really see the characters in the show dealing with this horrendous kind of crimes that they have to see on a daily basis. You see the impact that dealing with that kind of stuff has on these characters. And I will say, the acting in this show is top-notch as well. The acting in it is just spot on all the way through. There were a couple scenes here and there in the couple, I would say like the 4th or 5th episodes in the series, that I was kind of wondering where they were going. And there are a few episodes where really the characters don't make much in terms of a progression, but it's because they're learning as they go. These federal agents are learning about how to deal with the kinds of crimes in a different way. So they don't have a set kind of manual they can go by. There is no manual for what these guys are dealing with. And the way that they have to psychologically profile these killers is kind of mind-blowing when you think that these guys were the first ones to do it. And I think the acting shows that these guys are absolutely fantastic, and I love the performances through basically all the actors on the show. I thought they were all fantastic. In the end, I think the only thing that bogs the show down for me is the pacing, and that's just my complaint. Again, the pacing of the show in certain episodes is great, and then there's 2 or 3 where it just felt excruciatingly slow. And again, it's done that way purposefully to get you through 10 episodes. But I think the show probably could have been 8, and it would have been, like, absolutely phenomenal. That's really the only thing I can complain about is pacing. Everything else in the show was basically like watching a 10-hour movie. It was outstanding. I'm giving Mindhunter a 4 out of 5. I love this show. If you love David Fincher's prior work, you're going to love this. You're going to love this series. And I also want to give a big shout out to the other directors that filmed the other episodes, because David Fincher only did the first and the last 2 episodes of the series, and I hope that those guys get more work in the future. Anyway, I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. I wanted to say thank you for coming back to Cavanaugh's Corner, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy.